Hey everybody, so I would like to invite you to hang out with me for a minute as we go through this article that I wrote. I've actually put a lot of time into this. I don't know, maybe I started it like 6 months ago, but even then, it's kind of the culmination of a lot of realizations over the years. Back when I was a monk, one of the hardest things for me was to work through the addictions that I brought with me from my earlier life. And I'm reading through all of these ancient scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and there's like so much wisdom. And at the same time, I'm living in a different context and at different times, and I was struggling to figure out, how do I apply this to my struggles, to my problems, addiction, resentment, shame, things like that. And it really took me years, to learn the knowledge, to mature as a person, and to figure out how does this apply to me? How can this solve my problems? And then, obviously the next step is like putting it into writing, putting it into a format that other people can digest. That's like it's clear and it's succinct and it can bring benefit to other people to kind of like save you from going through the whole nightmare that I had to go through to figure all this stuff out. And so this is one of the writings that I've done based on that purpose of mine, that endeavor I have, and it's called "Making a Comeback After a Fall." Because it's just one of the most discouraging experiences you can have when you think you're set, you think you're free, you think you've figured this out finally, and then bam, you fall back on your face. And so that is actually where we start. And so I'll read a little bit, maybe stop, make some comments, but yeah, just hang out with me. We can go through this together. I just want to share with you some of my best realizations. This article in particular, it really focuses on how like recovery from any kind of bad habit or addiction is a gradual process because you got to build your strength and you got to find a winning strategy and you got to know what's your goal. And so those things can take time to figure out. But once you have those in place, it's like it really has a lot to do with your choices. There are many other factors, to be honest, um, that contribute towards recovery and self control and developing integrity. But we can kind of say that ultimately it comes down to your choices. And so, just to give you a little preview, I'm going to focus on four different areas in particular where you want to be careful about your choices. And so, number one is like embracing your challenges in life rather than running away from them. Number two is knowing your limits and having safeguards in place so that you're not expending your willpower needlessly and kind of just like playing with fire until you get burnt. Number three is making excuses, which is a kind of insult to our own intelligence. Like we know better, but somehow we still accept these ideas that like kind of justify what we want to do, but they don't really hold up to scrutiny. And the last one's giving up, like not giving all the effort you could towards doing the right thing. And so basically, what I have to say in this article is that if you're embracing your challenges and you are taking safety precautions and you're not making excuses and you're not giving up, it's only a matter of time until you get strong enough that you can maintain your lasting sobriety. And so I base a lot of it on Bhagavad Gita. Uh, some of it's also my own realizations. It's kind of a blend. And so why don't we jump right into it? It might be drugs, alcohol, pornography, or something else, but falling back into old habits is one of the most discouraging and confusing experiences you can possibly have. I know what it feels like. You are confidently charging across the tightrope, expecting to gracefully reach the opposite side. But with a single wrong step, you fell down to the unforgiving earth. The fall isn't the worst part, though. It's your shattered pride and expectations. After you thought you'd finally reached the level of mastery, it seems like in just a few moments you've lost all the progress you fought so hard for. You question everything you've been trying so far, wondering if it's all wrong or just a waste of time. Otherwise, you don't know what else to do. With the fear that nothing else will ever be good enough, you start to doubt whether you can ever reach freedom through self control. You're not alone in feeling this way. Countless people who eventually overcame addiction had to face similar moments of despair. But what turns a setback into a comeback is the realization that mistakes are never final. They only mean that you've discovered a weakness, and that's the first step towards fortifying it. Rather than doubting yourself or feeling ashamed, embrace this moment as an opportunity to grow as a person. Then, this fall that seemed like the end of the world can actually become part of your great comeback. You need reasons to be hopeful. Life goes on even after you fall back into old habits. What you really need, though, isn't just a fresh day and another chance, but actual hope that things can be different next time. What reasons do you have to feel that way? It's so demoralizing to try the same approach when it has failed so many times. It makes you question whether to give up, persevere until your fortune changes, or adopt a new strategy. But hope is an optimistic state of mind where you believe you can reach a desired outcome. Believing that you can do something, though, is not as difficult as actually doing it. There are many people who believe in themselves but never actually succeed. Their confidence is based on desire and fantasy rather than evidence and experience. So, how can you be hopeful of lasting change without getting caught in an endless cycle of effort without results? So, you don't want to be like the myth of Sisyphus, where he's like pushing this boulder uphill indefinitely and he gets up and then it rolls back down and he keeps pushing. He's getting more tired every time, but it's just like a useless effort because it's not possible, and that's actually his curse. And so we don't want to get stuck in that because eventually you just give up because it's too painful to keep feeling like you're failing. And so we need reasons to feel hopeful. The feeling of hope is justified when you have three things: a worthy goal, you know where you're going and why; two, a winning strategy, you know what's required to succeed; and three, informed motivation, you're ready and able to meet the requirements. So a lot of times we're like enthusiastic and we feel like I can do this, I've got this, but we don't really know what we're signing up for. We don't know how hard it's going to be, and then once we encounter the real obstacles, we have different feelings about it. And so that's why I think motivation should really come after understanding the path ahead. Like if you want to be an Olympic gold medalist, you should know what the training involves. Otherwise, you can't say you want that, right? You have to love the journey as much as you love the idea of the outcome. And so, if you're missing any of these three things, don't be so hard on yourself for faltering or making mistakes because you're not actually equipped to achieve the results that you want yet. And it's not fair to criticize yourself for falling short of expectations that are actually unrealistic. It's actually really understandable to falter when your goal is hazy, you don't know the way to get there, and you're not ready or able to meet the obstacles or requirements yet. So stop charging forward blindly and punishing yourself when it predictably doesn't work out. Instead, set your mind on trying smarter with a worthy goal, a winning strategy, and personal motivations that are informed by foresight and preparation for the obstacles ahead. Then you'll have reasons to feel hopeful, and this will translate into effective action, which is just what you need to make a real comeback. A worthy goal. Toxic shame is a dark pit that we try to avoid at all costs. So, no one likes feeling bad about themselves. No one likes feeling like they're a bad person. Even if we have that thought or feeling in some moments, we try to avoid it at all costs. And so even when we make terrible mistakes, we always try to find an excuse that will save a little bit of our self-esteem. Because if we feel like, well, it was justified, then it seems to mean less about us personally. Um, the actual reason that we fall into this pit of shame, though, is because we made excuses and we were too proud. We overestimated our own ability. And so after you show off your achievements or you imagine that you're invincible, you start charging ahead without seeing the obstacles ahead of you. And then you trip and fall into abysmal darkness. And this is really a devastating experience because not only is the impact painful, but it's embarrassing when you thought that you had complete mastery and you realize it was just an illusion. And so, without a backup plan, you're left with nothing but discouragement and confusion about what to do next. And so, that's why pride comes before the fall. And we really need to be careful about getting absorbed in feelings of pride or shame because they both distort our ideas about who we are and what we're capable of, and this really gets in the way of making major changes in your habits. Pride makes you feel invincible, and then shame makes you feel hopeless, but neither one's true. Those are like really like extreme positions. It's just that sometimes those emotions can be so powerful, like especially when you really want to avoid shame and you're just not willing to look at it. It just takes a permanent hold inside your mind, or you're like so attached to pride to compensate that it just becomes intoxicating, and we can actually become like attached to these feelings, and then we're not able to let them go, and then we're not able to see things clearly, and we just get like stuck in a mindset that's not helping us. And so that's why I write here that the greatest damage that comes from the experience of repeated failures is that you develop self-limiting beliefs that are based in fear, and they actually make you hold back from striving for complete success. And so you assume that you can't actually reach the goal that you want to reach. You can't really reach your ideals, and then you come up with something below that. And a lot of times it's like these weird compromises and half measures. And so I give some examples. You might try to enjoy a poor habit in a way that minimizes the consequences, like you taste junk food and then spit it out instead of swallowing. Or you try to pause a habit temporarily that actually should be stopped altogether. Like you try to quit hard drugs, but only for a week. And so when we're coming up with a goal, an end goal, but it's based on these self-limiting beliefs, it can turn out really weird. And so these losing strategies will leave you spiritually adrift because you're not committing to your values, but you're also like the compromises you're making don't make you feel good about yourself. It's you're kind of like uh, in this weird limbo, and you just can't feel secure in that position. And so even though these kinds of attempts can seem rational, when you have these self-limiting beliefs, they will actually appear strange to anyone who really believes in your potential to make powerful changes in your life. And so in the Bhagavad Gita, we have the statement, Samshayatma Pranashyati. Self-doubting people will inevitably be lost. So there's different translations of that, but Samshaya means doubt and Atma means self. Vinashati will be lost. So the self-doubting people will be lost. So you're doubting yourself about whether you can really reach the standards that reflect your values and beliefs. And therefore you're lost. You're neither here nor there. But Krishna says that the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with discipline, yoga, or bharata, stand and fight. So in these verses, there's no assumption that failure is a permanent curse, because ignorance is not a permanent curse. It's something you can change. If you're ignorant about mathematics, you can learn about it. If you're ignorant about self-control, you can learn about it. So that anything that you're ignorant about, that you're failing at because you don't know how to do it, you can learn how, and you can develop the skills and the strength. And that's a wonderful thing, because it gives us hope. It gives us reason to have hope. And so we need to move from weakness and ignorance to the opposite, which is knowledge and strength. And so, therefore, instead of assuming that you're incapable of reaching a worthy goal, assume that you simply don't know how to get there yet, or you still need to develop the strength that's required. And then pick a goal that reflects your values and your beliefs and principles, and then figure out how to grow into it. So rather than bringing your ultimate goal down, I mean, you can bring like your intermediate goal down, like you have stepping stones to get to that ultimate goal. But your ultimate goal should really be based on what you believe and what is important to you as a person. And so you keep that up here. You don't bring it down because of failures, because of the fear of failure, but you keep it where it is, and then you try to figure out, how can I get there? And one of the best ways to do this is to really reflect deeply on the reasons why you want to change, why you want to bridge that gap between where you are and where you want to be. And so everyone has reasons why they want to change. You might want to be a more reliable person for the people you care about, the people who depend on you, your family, friends, community. You might want to have a healthy, happy life. You might want to achieve something amazing. Might want to be more spiritual, or develop more integrity, um, or just be more engaged in the world and happy and vibrant. But whatever the reasons are that you want to change, the more that you can clarify exactly what they are, and that they're really coming from a deep place in your heart, then uh, you have you have something that can't be taken away just by a setback. So if you're proud and thinking you're invincible and you have a setback, that's completely destroyed. It's gone. It's obliterated. But if you feel like, I want to be a good man, I want to be a good father, I want to be a good husband, I want to be a good devotee, I want to be dependable for my community, I want to come closer to God, like, that doesn't change just because you make a mistake. You can fall back on that motivation to keep going in those dark moments. And then you try to figure out, what's the winning strategy? And even when I have the winning strategy, it's going to take time for me to develop the strength to apply it properly. So I need to be patient. And so this understanding of your reasons for change is actually a type of knowledge. It's a type of self-knowledge. It's a type of self-knowledge which counteracts ignorance and weakness, and it sets you on a new path in life, a virtuous path, an uplifting path. And you're actually in a fight against ignorance. And so these are some questions you can ask yourself. If I fully trusted my ability to follow through, what goals or standards would I set? What makes these goals or standards worthy for me personally? What makes them meaningful? And how can I break down this ultimate goal into achievable steps? And so I recommend that you actually reflect on these questions in writing. If you want help with that, I'm happy to meet with you, and I'll actually just like talk through it with you, and you can just talk and answer questions, which is pretty easily. And then I actually write for you and then help you to develop and refine your questions by asking questions, and just doing a lot of the work for you. And you end up with like a document which like very clearly spells out why you want to make important changes in your life. And it's a really strong foundation for a powerful transformation. I've seen it time and time again. And then Even more powerful is if you share that with people who, because then you have like a sense of accountability. You really like you're putting yourself in the spot. And so I I have this sentence here that I really like. It says, you'll feel motivated to straighten out your character to align with your values rather than using excuses to justify remaining crooked. And so when we're avoiding accountability, when we're avoiding honesty, when we're avoiding becoming coherent in our thoughts and beliefs, where everything fits together and makes sense, then it's really easy for us to do anything and everything and just act on whims and make bad choices. But when you do the opposite and you like really commit to being fully honest, make yourself accountable, work through and clarify exactly what you believe and why, and what that means about how you want to live your life, you're putting yourself under some healthy pressure to work out the kinks in your character so that you can be a good man and be dependable for others and respect yourself and be respected by others. And there's nothing more valuable than that. And so once you have a worthy goal, then always remember the reasons that make it meaningful to you personally and learn from your successes and your failures. And never assume that any setback is proof that you can't ultimately be successful. In the words of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, if you cannot do something, but you simply think, how can I do it? How can I do it? How can I do it? Then you will also become liberated. Mistakes are part of the journey. And so we have another quote here from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He says, cheating and weakness are two separate things. And so it's a really important statement, and I'm going to clarify now exactly what that means so that you know the difference. Out of all the excuses in the book, the most dangerous one is thinking, if I can't be perfectly self controlled, then it doesn't matter what I do. This all or nothing mindset makes you swing from one extreme to the other, expecting complete success overnight, and then using the slightest mistake as a license to jump off the cliff head first. But self control isn't like an on off switch where you just simply turn on the light of self control. It's more like a muscle that you develop over time. And so, even if you have the best of intentions, it still takes practice to overcome any addiction. It still takes time to develop the strength to stay strong against the urges and temptations. And just because you make some mistakes along the way doesn't necessarily mean that you're hopeless or insincere. At the same time, you don't want to postpone meaningful change to a future that will never come, making excuses and say, oh, I'll change tomorrow. So, how can you tell whether you're making real progress despite a few stumbles or you're hopelessly repeating the same tired mistakes? So, to answer this question, you need to understand the difference between slipping accidentally because of weakness and crumbling because of dishonesty. So, slipping. Slipping is a mistake that happens because of weakness. It's not the result of any choices that you made. You're sincerely trying, you just haven't developed the strength, strategy, or support that you need yet. So, just like it's not possible for a baby to learn how to walk without falling sometimes, mistakes are just part of the journey. And as long as you're giving your best effort and learning from your mistakes, these setbacks are only temporary. So don't be discouraged. Get back up and keep trying because you're meant to stand and walk. Just like a child is meant to walk, you're meant to be in control of yourself. Crumbling. Crumbling is when you make choices that contribute to the problem. You might be going through the motions and saying all the right things, but you're not sincerely trying to reach the outcome of actual sobriety. Instead, you find excuses that soothe your ego while allowing you to make poor choices. The danger is that, so the excuses, it makes you feel like you're not doing anything wrong and that you have permission somehow to do these things, even though deep down you know that's not true. We lie to ourselves to make ourselves feel better about stuff we shouldn't do. Um, Breaking our integrity always comes with self-deception. And so the danger is that as soon as you allow yourself to accept just one excuse, to tell just one lie, it creates a cascade effect where your mind is in this compromised condition and you're very susceptible to lie to yourself and other people even more. It's like as soon as you create one hole in the dam, it starts to crumble and everything just falls apart. And basically, every excuse that you accept, every lie you tell, it creates a loophole where you feel like you have permission to do that again. And pretty soon, what you said was just like a one time exception becomes a regular thing. And that's why they say the exception becomes the rule. And so, if you just look at the behavior, then slipping and crumbling look pretty much the same because both are just falling back into old habits. The thing is, though, that no one like slips on purpose. It's an accident. And so the difference between slipping and crumbling has everything to do with your intentions and your choices and your mindset before the action. And so we also see this in Western law. It's how they tell the difference between a first, second, and third degree offense. They ask, was it entirely accidental, a predictable outcome of reckless behavior, or something you planned in advance? And so the focus is on the choices and mindset that led to the mistake and not just the mistake itself. More important than you being flawless in your recovery process is making sure that you're not complicit in your mistakes because you have a criminal mindset. You're making choices and thinking in ways that contribute to the problem. That's a criminal mindset. And so innocent mistakes happen because of weakness, but cheating is a result of choices which could have been avoided. And therefore, even though you can't always avoid mistakes, you can always avoid cheating. And similarly, since giving your best effort doesn't mean you have to be perfect, it's always in your capacity to give your best effort. And so do your best and don't cheat. And don't be discouraged if your progress is gradual and imperfect because that's just part of the journey of becoming stronger as a person. And so I think I'll stop there because we're almost at 30 minutes, but I can continue this in the next video and we'll actually get into the details about the 4 different types of cheating, but each one has a counter strategy that we'll get into. And yeah, if you've come this far in the video, I'm really grateful for you spending some time with me. Please leave your comments in uh, the comment field, or you can actually just message me directly. Like if this resonates with you personally and you just want to have a conversation, no agenda, we just talk and see how this applies to you and get to know each other a little bit. And I look forward to see you guys next time. Thank you so much for spending this time with me.